Welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast. I'm Christy Peel. As you know, I'm an advocate of transforming social media platforms into places of positivity, learning, connection, and inspiration. At my book launch in October, we had an activation and asked people in the audience who they follow on social media who's using social media for good. Today's guest, Hannah Heidel, was written down right here on this piece of paper. If you're watching online, you can see that. Someone at the event wrote down her name. So I'm really excited to have Hannah, known online as Nourished Girl with two Ds, on the podcast. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited about that story. That's the coolest thing ever.
It was really fun because we want people to share who they're following that is putting out good, positive, helpful, valuable content. And when you're a content creator, you can tell by likes and DMs that people are positively coming across your content and they're engaging with it. But to have someone call you out as one of their main positive influences online, that must feel good for you.
Yeah, it's super special. And like you said, you can get the engagement and stuff on social media, but it is all virtually. So to have that physical manifestation means a lot to me and kind of keeps me going in this space. So it's really good to hear.
Well, let's talk about the kind of content that you put out there that clearly someone in our audience really appreciates. And your content has changed. It's all about health. But over time, as you've been putting out content, it has adjusted and evolved as we all do. So talk about your content and how it's changed over time.
Yeah, completely. It definitely has had its little own evolution as I've grown through the years. I'm 24, and just being in your 20s, things are happening so fast. You're going through so many different life changes and just changes within yourself. So I had originally started the account transitioning into starting my own health journey. I was in a pretty dark place mentally and physically. And so I kind of just use this space, as you mentioned, I go by Nourished Girl. I don't go by my name because I just wanted it to be my safe space. And although there's a lot of people now on the account and it's public and everything, I did kind of treat it initially as my own little personal diary. But as I've gone through school, and I mean, I have my master's now in holistic nutrition science, so leaning more into the health component of just nutrition and taking care of yourself mentally and physically and what that looks like. But sharing my journey has been at the core of it. And it's been really special to be vulnerable with myself to share it, but also be vulnerable with other people because I know I'm not alone. And there's so many people going through similar things, even though we all have different paths and journeys.
That must have been scary at the beginning.
Yeah, it was very scary. Granted, having the kind of anonymous account made it a little bit easier, but I do come from a small town and I don't know who sees my posts. I don't know who's interacting and what people think of it. So it was very daunting, but the more I did it, the more confident I became just because I was really opening up for the first time. And that made me feel really good.
And when people think about social media as a place that someone who is going to share mental health struggles, they're going to go to social media, a place where a lot of people feel like is the root of all mental health problems is social media. It's interesting to me that that's the platform that you went when you were working on your own journey. Why did you decide to go there when many people find that social media is the reason that they struggle with mental health?
That's a great point. I mean, it is the root of it, but it's also a community. And I think that that's what I was lacking because at the time I felt like I had no one to talk to, even with a supportive family. It just, it was a space for me that I wasn't necessarily looking at first to connect with other people. It was really just to share for myself. And I didn't have a ton of followers when I first started, obviously. And so I was just kind of opening that door and getting comfortable with the idea of I do struggle with mental health and even typing out captions and everything. I was doing that for myself. And as time went on and building more of a community, I do think that there's a very healthy and special place that gets created with social media. Now, obviously, a lot of us overuse it, and that can cause a lot of anxious thoughts and we compare and it can cause problems. But I think if you're using it in a way to connect with yourself and other people, there is a lot of healing that can come through it.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're talking about is what's your intention? Why are you on social media? And when you get there, how intentional are you going to be about how much time you spend on it and what accounts you're looking at and who you're DMing and the comments? So it is showing up to this space, knowing what you're there for and trying to make it better. Is that accurate?
Exactly. Yes. And I'm not perfect, obviously. Like, I have times where I really overuse social media and I get down on myself and mental health worsens. I have apps on my phone to block me from being on Instagram too long. And there is a boundary that you have to have with yourself that's hard to break because social media is so addicting. But again, I think if it's just you have the right intentions, and especially what I'm posting online, I'm not trying to put on a front. I'm not trying to show that I have a perfect life and all is well. I try to have a balance of sharing my mental health struggles, how I'm taking care of myself, what I do when I don't feel well. And I also give myself breaks if I don't, I mean, I went through a period of time where I wasn't posting for weeks or months. And being a content creator, that's my job for the most part. So it's not very common to do that because you have to keep posting and working, obviously. But again, just having that boundary, having the intention, really using it to what I think you can just really benefit from it.
I think it's so interesting how you talk about the boundaries, but also the vulnerability and how through Heal Thyself, you're showing up to help other people. And yet you have to be really aware of the powerful tool that you're using and how that powerful tool can be used to help and it can be used to hurt. And even though you're kind of working through this at the same time as the people who are following you, you still have to be really aware of it. It never goes away.
Yeah, it doesn't go away.
What's the most meaningful impact that you think you've had on someone? I imagine you get DMs from people and you get comments from people that are saying, gosh, your content is really helping me, or I relate with that, or I want to be part of your community. Can you talk about some of the impact that you've had? And if that has fueled you to keep going, even when, gosh, this is a hard place to be?
Yeah, what's great is people gain things from my account that I wouldn't expect them to because I know what I gain from it. I know what I feel when I share my vulnerability or when I share things about nutrition and holistic health. But then people take away such different things than I was expecting. So I'll get messages and they'll share like they feel less alone about not having a ton of friends right now in this season of their life, or they feel like they can create more of like a morning routine and they have motivation to take care of themselves, or they just stopped drinking and they're in their early 20s and none of their friends are, but they felt comfort seeing my past videos and why I've gone sober. Or just, I mean, I have a private practice with my nutrition clients. And so there's that aspect of a lot of women who are on their hormone journeys and trying to balance their hormones, get, help mitigate their symptoms naturally. I get a lot of messages about that. So it's very full circle. It's mind, body, and soul, which I am a huge believer in, and I went to school for it. I've studied for it for almost a decade. So there's a lot of different, I guess, ways people can find benefit to my content, which is great. And it's also helping me not feel like I have to put myself in a box and only do one thing.
That makes a ton of sense. And when you are working with your clients, if they have already encountered you online, is it hard for them to see you as Hannah the person, not Nourish Girl the creator?
It's a good question. I've never noticed anything that's made me like kind of feel off or uncomfortable if they're kind of looking at me with like big eyes or something. I've never had that. People are very kind. And if anything, they're just appreciative. They say, I mean, I've had a lot of people come from my Substack, my blog for your nourishment. And, it's just very complimentary, but obviously I'm here for them. So if anything, it's just kind of creating maybe a little bit of a safe space for them because they feel like they already know me a bit. So it's not as like daunting, especially when you're going to be talking about your health. And obviously that's very vulnerable, but it served me very well.
Congratulations, because I think that's something that many people who start social media and start accounts that aspire to be content creators hope for? And I know that when you started, you probably didn't see yourself where you are today. And yet sometimes that happens, especially when I think the intentions are pure and are in the realm of helping. I'm going to switch gears a bit. Whenever I talk with particularly women about social media and the ability to social media for good and how important it is to be vulnerable and authentic, I always get the question, which is why I want to ask you, because I suspect people have asked you this as well. What's the difference between authenticity, vulnerability, and oversharing?
That's a great question. I think authenticity is you being yourself without a filter. You not feeling like you have to put on a front or be somebody that you're not, really going back to what you value, where you've been, where you are, where you're going. There is the level of oversharing that I think a lot of creators might fall into because they feel like they owe something to their followers or just people scrolling on the algorithm. But there is a level, and I have balanced that in my own life because I think having privacy and things to yourself and not on social media is really special. And it helps me at least be very present in that, good and bad things that I'm dealing with in my journey. Some things I'm not ready to talk about yet. But it is a good question because I do think that there is a level of oversharing that can be harmful, especially if someone is oversharing about certain parts of their life that someone is navigating or that causes them to compare themselves and their situation. But being authentic is at the core of what I do. And it doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean being flashy or trying to look like, again, I have it all together or that I always am like on. It's just showing up, period. It's different for me every day, especially. And I know people that deal with mental health, it just varies so much. But I would say that probably.
That's a great answer. You answered it much better than I do when people ask me that, because you really balance the authenticity with the intentionality, and it is showing up authentically, but with intention and with strategy to some degree, because most content creators, even though most successful content creators who know what their audience is looking for and why they're there and what they're interested in, don't generally, unless it's maybe in a story, see something that happens and immediately post. They generally think about it and process it and have a plan, which I think helps with some of that editing. And then the thing that might happen that might blow up your day, good, bad, or otherwise, that's the call a friend stuff. It isn't I'm going to post it on social media right away. And knowing the difference between what makes sense to have a one-on-one conversation with someone who knows you and your context and your background and can be trusted, all those things that make a meaningful relationship, different than an audience who is showing up looking for something and to engage with something. So it is a really good reminder, because I think sometimes I certainly have done it. I've scrolled and it's an oversharing thing that I've seen from someone else. And it's like, whoa, what is, I didn't need to know that. Or gosh, I think you're going to regret posting that. But when you're a content creator, there are these expectations to be posting. So I appreciate that you've talked about the authenticity, the intentionality, and the willingness to have a boundary.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with what you said. And something that I've always tried to think about when I'm posting, or before I post, I should say, is I don't know who actually is going to see this. I don't know who's following me. I don't know whose feed I'm going to end up on who doesn't follow me. I don't know what they're going through. And there's just such a responsibility that people have when they post. It's not just about what I'm going through. It's who is this going to hit and how is this going to impact them? I have no idea. So that intentionality, I think, is extremely important, but also just knowing that you are responsible for what you're putting out there, not only for your own life, but how it's going to impact others. And although we can't know that, having that awareness and just being mindful, I think will help you share content that's meaningful and it's not necessarily harmful. Especially in the health and wellness space, there's so much misinformation, there's so many opinions, there's so many oversharing stories and things about what people should do for their health. And I just reiterate all the time, it's such a big responsibility to post about health online. And it's such a big responsibility to share about your health journey and navigating alcohol and mental health. It's just really important.
I appreciate that you're talking about your particular space on social media because it is different. And the health and wellness does have so many creators. And I know I'm not alone in seeing something that someone else posted and then going, really? I had no idea. And then taking a step back and like, maybe I should fact check that. Maybe this person is trying to sell me something and they're not an actual doctor, or they have never gone to more school, or they have never actually studied this, or it's not something they've had personal experience with, but there is a benefit for them to tell me to take X supplement or do X exercise or whatever it might be. How much of your time is with the people that you're talking with, whether on your social media accounts or your clients, is just clearing up stuff that isn't true?
That's so funny. A lot, actually, especially with my clients, because sometimes people will come to me and you can just tell like their heart's beating and they're overwhelmed and they have so much information and they don't know what to do with it. And so I always go back to, what are you going through personally? What are you navigating? What is your health history? I mean, that's why I love my private practice, because we really dive into their health history and like all the medication and supplements they're taking. And it's so bio individual. I use that word quite a bit with them, but there is a lot of kind of unlearning things, because you go online, you scroll, you see hundreds of videos sometimes if you're doom scrolling with just information, and who knows how it's going to help you or hurt you. You just don't know until you're doing it. You're spending money, especially with the supplements. I mean, that's a billion, however many $1 billion industry now. But it is just, again, it's a responsibility and it's super important to be on top of it. And I try to meet my clients with grace in that, because I get the same way too. Even though I study this, I fall into buying supplements sometimes, or if someone I look up to online is, promoting something, I might try it. And I don't think it's totally harmful all the time, obviously, but it's something to not stress about if something doesn't work for you, because it's very easy to feel like, oh my gosh, this worked for all of them and it doesn't work for me. I'm so broken in my body. Why isn't my body working? Why am I struggling so bad? There's that aspect too.
It's such a great point. And the other thing that I think is social media at its worst in the health and wellness space, besides just spreading misinformation, is it makes you aware of things that aren't even wrong. I didn't even know that this was a thing that I should be worried about, or it makes you aware of things that, gosh, as you mentioned, bio individual. This was never a problem for me until I saw this post. Why now suddenly do I think I need this oil or this supplement or this exercise, whatever it is? And if you're searching for that stuff, and as you mentioned, there's so many content creators putting out content in that space. I imagine your algorithm would just make you want to throw your phone into the lake because it would be overwhelming. What do you think the most harmful advice that's out there on social media in the health and wellness spaces?
Ooh, anything in extreme, which obviously is everything right now. It's very like, the protein trend is a great example. Not necessarily that specifically, but just in general, we're so hyper fixated on one thing to solve it, whether that's taking this, doing this, having however many 100 grams. I think in general, it's just the all or nothing mentality. And when it comes to our health, and when you're really leaning into the actual practices of holistic health and doing all different pillars of health, mind, body, and soul, it can't just be one thing. It isn't just one thing. But I think so many people, I included sometimes, we're all looking for just relief and we're looking for a fix. And we think going all in on one thing is going to help that. But it honestly can just create more stress, more anxiety about your health, feeling like there's more problems than when you started. It's such a common thing. So I would say anything, doing anything in excess, doesn't matter if it's working out or nutrition or a supplement or anything. I think it can be harmful when you overdo it.
Everything in moderation.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, that's been beneficial for you and how you create content and what your followers are looking for and have gravitated to the point where someone is calling you out as someone who is their posting such positive content. It's about your own journey and sharing your own journey, which is very different from showing up with, you should buy this, you should do this, but this is my experience and this is what worked for me. And then, as you mentioned earlier, depending upon how that connects with someone, they might take a little piece of that because it in some way really impacts them and what their journey is, which is, again, I think a red flag with content when it's, you should do this, without, here's how it helped me.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that distinction between this worked for me and then you need to do this is very different, because someone can listen to what's worked for you and maybe apply it in their life. But if I'm directly telling my screen to do X, Y, and Z things, again, I have no idea who is going to see that video. So I just don't think it's as helpful as maybe people hope and intended for it to be. Because I feel like people in the health and wellness space, we all have similar values and wants. We just want people to feel better, but how you go about that is tricky. There is a slippery slope.
And some of your content is as simple as, here are the foods that nature is offering this month. Try eating some of this, which you're not making money when I eat a strawberry. So I think it also is a little bit about the intentionality of and the motivation of the content that someone is putting out,
Mhm.
which is sort of a
Yeah,
test.
I do get hard on myself a little bit because I'm not promoting things constantly on my page. And like you said, with the seasonal graphics that I make, I mean, I'm not profiting off of that in the way that other people could. But again, I think that it just comes off with the authenticity that I'm trying to do and the balance that, like, my page has never been a marketplace. And even though it is a big source of my income, I just I try to create the content that I want to see. And when I see someone pushing guides and supplements and, buy this constantly, it makes you overwhelmed. And I just don't want to do that to people. And those graphics they take me a long time to make, but they make me happy and they're fun and vibrant. And that's why I post them. So it's not always about the money aspect, I guess. It's just doing what fuels you creatively. And then, of course, I have my other posts that I can, you know, use in different ways, but just having fun with it.
Did you ever expect when you started that it would be revenue generating?
I did, but I didn't understand the scope of it. And I still don't understand the scope of it, honestly. I mean, I'm not on TikTok, so there is a big market and there's a lot of potential that I'm missing out on intentionally. But when I first started, I mean, I remember making my first $50 and I thought that was the most I was ever going to make. And just to see how much is possible in this space, it's so amazing. And I'm so grateful that so many people are able to use social media for their businesses, because there is no limit to what you can make in this space. And that's not, you're not going to get that at a typical 9 to 5 corporate job. So there's so much potential for people, and it's really inspiring and exciting, but also overwhelming.
Makes sense. And from all of the guests that we've had on the podcast, everyone has shared some version of the same theme, which is, yes, you can absolutely make an income and you can make a very good income. However, we haven't had anyone on yet, and I know that they're out there, who started their channel for that purpose only. They started for some other reason. And oh, by the way, I'm so surprised by the income or by the influence or the impact. I think that this is the kind of content that is positive and changes the platforms into purpose-filled places, which is different than marketplaces and different than pushing products and wondering if the information is even factual. So I appreciate that you shared openly about how you started and where you've gone, and that you've surprised yourself, and that you're intentionally not going all in because that would be negative for other aspects of your health.
Completely. Yeah.
What's next for you, Hannah? Can you tell us anything that's next for you in the social media realm?
Um, I don't know. I really don't. I think that I'm just excited for where I'm at right now in my life and continuing to build a community online, continuing to share information, work with clients. I'm doing a talk in Tahoe, actually, where I'm from, next month at our yoga festival. And so I'm really excited for that because I think some people who are following me are coming to it. So I think that'll be really cool. I'll be talking about nervous system regulation and nutrition. So there's a lot that's just like organically coming in I'm excited about. But honestly, I take it one day at a time. I have to because it's a bit daunting, especially where I'm at with just my age and everything. There's so much comparison and always trying to do something else. But I'm genuinely just trying to enjoy with where I'm at right now because I feel like I'm in a pretty good, healthy space. So I try and hold on to that.
That's a wonderful attitude as it relates to social media, as it relates to your career. And I imagine folks who are in their 20s who are listening are grateful that you honestly shared that, because based on the people that I know that in their 20s, it certainly can be comparison and can be a challenge. And I know that your content is a place where people are certainly finding nourishment based on the feedback that we received. So you have fans in the Minnesota area, and I am cheering for you, watching your content, and appreciate the authenticity, vulnerability, and intentionality that you're bringing to the platform. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Hen. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. And thank you to whoever wrote my name down because this wouldn't have happened. So thank you so much.
Great. I love that. Thank you.